Welcome, everyone, to Wave Street Studios. Thank you so much for joining us here at this panel discussion that we are so happy to be hosting post the amazing Pride Parade and celebration that happened today, thanks to some pretty amazing people behind me here. And we would like to thank you for joining us on Wave Street Live, all of our viewers online. Anything that happens at Wave Street Studios can generally be found streaming live on our personal development channel that we hope to use to proliferate the tools of love and wellness and health that we're so lucky to be experiencing in this room here today. And just very grateful to get the chance to spread that a little bit wider into the global audience. So you're welcome. You're welcome, Ether, Digital Clouds. This is for you. Thank you guys so much. And to our wonderful panel, thank you guys so much for being here, and look forward to discussing this day with you guys. Thank you.
Have a gay day. We're going to start there. So my name is Stephen Goings. My radical fairy name is Quazar. I thought we would just start by, let's go around the table and say our names and our pronouns and a couple of identities that we have related to LGBT and something that intersects that. Start here.
Okay, so hi everybody. My name is Milhalko. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. In terms of my identities, I identify strongly as a queer mama. I'm a mama of a 2-year-old who is absolutely amazing. I also identify as a lesbian. Yeah, that's about my queer life, my lesbian mom thing going on.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a proud wife too. I have an amazing, lovely wife who really helps make me who I am. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Avner Even-Zohar. I go by he and his. I'm a gay man. I'm very active in the Jewish community, and my mission is to try to bridge the gap between the Jewish community and the LGBTQ community. I was teaching 2 classes at the Harvey Milk Institute in San Francisco. One of them I called it Gay Oy Vey, and the other one was Queer Oy Vey Zmir. And then in addition, I'm very interested in leadership and emotional intelligence and happiness. So I write books on leadership and emotional intelligence and happiness, and I volunteer with kids in our community and in Europe, in Asia, in South Africa. So that's my mission. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Tyler Williamson, and my pronouns he, his. I am a gay man, and a black gay man at that, so that's how I identify. And I'm the lead organizer for the Monterey County Peninsula Pride, and
The fabulous lead organizer.
well, and I'm just so thankful for everybody who helped contribute to it by either being an organizer themselves, which are the other folks in the pink shirts here, or we had yellow neon volunteers, or if you were just a participant of and you were able to come and be a part of the wonderful day. I mean, everybody, just every little part made something of it. So yeah, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Cool. Thank you.
And I'm Stephen Nelson Goings. My spiritual name again is Quazar. My preferred pronoun is Your Highness. Barring that, him, her, she, any of those. I'm a two-spirit, so I'll take it all. What else? I am African American. I have AIDS, so I'm an AIDS survivor. I'm a drug survivor. I'm a survivor of homophobia in this society and have thrived anyway and been able to contribute. So, and I'm having a fantastic day. Okay.
Okay. My name is Heather Flesher, and I use female pronouns. I am a transgender woman. I also am a lesbian. I'm a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. I have hepatitis C, and I also live with bipolar disorder. And each of these has its own challenges, which all intersect to give me a very interesting life. I'm an activist mostly expressed through my writing. I'm a spoken word artist and a poet, a playwright, and a stage performer, and I have a lot to say, and I'm always looking for opportunities to say it. So thank you for having me here.
Hi, I'm Steph. I'm a bi-female. My pronouns are she, her, and I was the social media lead and art coordinator for Pride.
Marvelous.
Yeah.
I thought, could we start with you, Tyler? Could you tell us how?
Why not?
How did this come about in the first place?
Yeah, so, Kayla Jones is a council member in the city of Seaside. We are both on the Democratic Central Committee for Monterey County. And so after one of the meetings, she came up to me and she was like, we should have a pride. And I was like, that's a great idea. Let's do it. And she's like, well, great. Yeah, you go organize it. Because I can't participate, especially if it's going to be in Seaside and it has to go up for a vote for the city. So I literally had to organize everything from the get-go by myself, which was a challenge in and of itself because of everything else that I'm involved in. But I took it with pride, pun intended. And so I had to find an organization in the community that would be a sponsor of this event. And so I reached out to National Coalition Building Institute, NCBI, Monterey chapter president, Elena Loomis, who was a wonderful friend of mine that is involved in other community activities with myself. And she got the approval from the board. They agreed to sign on to the application. We submitted the application to the city, and we were requesting a fee waiver. So it included the expenses for the use of the police department, for public works, and for the use of the Oldermeyer Center, and it all totaled a little over $5,000. So it had to go in front of the Seaside City Council, and we got the approval. And then after we got the approval, I reached out to Rainbow Speakers, and from there it just started cascading and reaching out to various LGBTQ communities, groups in the community, and then I started getting amazing folks like you all to come and help me get this going. So that's kind of how it all started.
Cool. So of all the people who were up here, who were the first people that you brought in that you remember?
Stefanie was at the first meeting.
Was that the first meeting? I thought that was the second
No,
meeting.
you were at the first meeting.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
and Amanda was there as well, I'm pretty sure too,
Yeah,
right?
I remember Amanda was there with her
Yeah.
wife and child.
Well, Stephanie, why don't you pick it up from there? How has it been? Someone's asked you to do something and you said yes. Why did you say yes, and what's it been like?
Well, let's see. Are we talking social media or just in general?
Just
jumping
from the
into
beginning.
I think for me, it was like there's always been a disconnect. I think everybody could see there's like this disconnect in the LGBTQ community here. It's very fractured, unlike Santa Cruz, which is all interlocked and connected. And I thought, I need to find, my first idea was like, I need to find LGBTQ like friends or something. So like I downloaded the Meetup app, and one of the what's it called? Well, no, it wasn't that. It was one of the events that's listed was the Pride meeting. And I was like, there's a Pride, okay, somebody is doing a Pride parade. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna get involved somehow. Yeah, and then so I showed up, and you had mentioned social media, and I'm like, okay, I know about social media. I did an internship with a political campaign where I did the Facebook page. Like, I know this. I got this down. Like, I'm doing it. And since then, I've loved it.
I first found out about the Pride Parade at the NAACP Life Membership Banquet. Someone had gotten wind of it, and I hadn't heard of it at all. But someone said Tyler had something to do with a gay pride parade, and I came up and said, "Don't you ever!"
He did sit down and lecture me. He goes,
There is not supposed to be a pride
organized a
parade, and I
pride."
don't know nothing about it.
I did. I got scolded. That will never happen again.
So I just couldn't believe that something was happening right under my nose, and I was like, I was thrilled. So how about you, Amanda? How did you get into it?
Susie is my wife. So just this morning, Susie said, "How did you find out about this again?" after the last, 2 months of constant organizing. And I was trying to think about how I got added in. Somebody had sent me a Facebook message. It was a very long group message. It may have been Edie, who's sitting in the room, maybe added me to the conversation. I'm not sure, but somebody out there, amazing person, added me to the conversation. And it was, sorry, this might seem last minute, but we're meeting tonight for this. And we'd really, we want all the people who are on this group email to come and, be a part of this. And we need people at the table and we want connections and please come. And I'm thinking, okay, it's 2:00 and I have a 2-year-old and how are we going to do this? So I think I messaged can I bring my child? And
Yes.
very quickly, Tyler, who I had not met yet, wrote back and said, sure, we'll figure it out. And everybody was a really great sport that day with my 2-year-old who was running around and there was a water jug and he was spilling water on the floor, but everybody just kept rolling with it, giving him chocolates and making him very happy as we tried to figure out and start to divide tasks and say okay, I want to do organizing, I want to do celebration. And I think for me from the very beginning, just the energy of please, we have no idea what's going to happen at the meeting, bring your child, please come be a part of this. For me, it was okay, all right, I'll sign on to this, and so that was such a warm, welcoming invitation. I chose not to bring my little one to the rest of the meeting so that I could focus and figure out what I was doing. But just knowing that it would have been okay if I did bring him was really amazing. And I did get to bring him to sign making, which was a huge hit in our household. So.
Well, and if not to detract from the line of questioning, but aren't you working on that thing for the county as well?
Yeah.
So if maybe you could describe that for everybody.
Absolutely. So I work with another organization called Monterey County LGBT Collaborative. So it's a collaborative that was put together to really look at different service organizations that are working with the LGBTQ community, especially looking at working with youth. And so we meet once a month at CRLA, California Rural Legal Assistance. They're our backbone agency. We try to follow a collective impact model. So we have a lot of different people at the table, and we're really just working towards making the LGBTQ community more visible, raise awareness, and really sort of pay attention to what's happening with our youth and what messages they're getting. So one of the ideas that's come out of the collaborative is trying to find ways to, as Stefanie alluded to, bringing the community together and figuring out how do we get the community that's in the Peninsula and Salinas and the Salinas Valley and North County, how do we bring them together? Because there really are so many amazing organizations out there doing really good work for LGBTQ people. But sometimes they go unnoticed, or they're doing pieces here or there. They don't even know each other exists. So one idea we had was to look at creating an LGBTQ commission here in Monterey County. And so part of that was trying to figure out, has that ever been tried before? Who in our county really is the history holder? And so that's how I got connected with Dave. I touched base with Quazar, hey, do you know, has this happened? Some different professors at CSUMB. And I think, that's how I think I originally saw your name. Somebody passed it along. So I think what's amazing is there's a much bigger community than I think we know here, but we're also interconnected in so many ways that people are able to give those names and share those names, and you're able to end up on a group email that says, hey, come join us.
Right.
Was anybody else surprised about? So I'm thinking there were someone said maybe 700 people there. 700?
Yeah, I had somebody that was standing watching the parade count, and so he counted for me, and then he said 700 plus, and then I didn't even count folks that maybe didn't even march in the parade. So we're looking clearly over 700 people participating in today's event. It was amazing, absolutely amazing.
And I remember, you asked people to kind of estimate how many people would show up.
Yeah.
And a lot of people said, 300.
That was me.
That was you.
I'm like, 3.
And, I thought, maybe 450. maybe. Like, I didn't think maybe not 500, but maybe like 450. And I think we all really underestimated, this event and what the outcome would be. And it was just so positive, and it just really warmed my heart.
And wait a minute, these aren't just the people who were marching in the parade, but
Yeah.
more people came later to the community center. So it could be, all in all, perhaps over 1,000.
Captain Avner, Captain Happiness. It could be Captain Gay today, but we'll Captain Happiness. Actually, gave the Jewish invocation. Would you talk about how that was and being part of like the faith representation today?
Thank you. I thank you kindly for this question. I think that so many people that I meet in our community, somehow they have the notion, it's a wrong notion, that it's either you're a person of faith or you're LGBTQ. And for me, and I know for many other people, you can definitely have both. And for many people, it helps to know that you can be strongly connected to your community, religious community. You can be connected to God. You can be connected to your heritage and history, and add to that your diversity and LGBTQ identity. This is so important, specifically when I volunteer, and I volunteer with teenagers. You don't have to choose. You can have it all. And I think for us, people who want to support the youngsters in our community, it's very important to give them the message, to empower them, to give them the tools, and then you could see the results. So many high school students participated today, and students from community centers and university students, and it was beautiful. Young adults and seniors, it was really a community, and to see that together, for me, was a real celebration.
I think one of the coolest experiences for me today was the reading that I did for the student that wasn't able to come,
Yes.
the student that spoke during the event, and then when you spoke and you were having the different groups
Yes.
stand up, and then you were saying the LGBTQ youth, and there was a group of them standing next to each other,
Wasn't that
and they turned
fantastic?
around and they were giving each other high fives. Like, I'm just getting goosebumps. It was just
Yeah.
amazing
Yeah.
about the youth participation and involvement in this, and I think that's the most important part about it for me. So.
How about you? So let's talk about you for a little bit. So the context that I know you in is from Rainbow Speakers, and I think you've also been doing some marvelous stuff with Michael Fredrickson's group. Want to talk about some of that stuff? I see you as a transgender activist.
I am definitely a transgender activist. I would say that the most recent project that I did, and the most important transgender project that I ever did, was that recently I was part of a production of a play that I wrote called Daughters of Nothing, which is all the characters in it are trans women. And it was produced recently at the Paper Wing Theater in New Monterey. As far as I know, it's the only project like it to ever be done on the peninsula. All the characters are trans, and all of the performers, except for one, were also trans women. It's really hard to find trans actors with a theatrical experience in an area this small. We definitely wanted it to be an all trans cast, and we got as close to that as we could. But the challenge really was to just get the word out, because I can say it without exaggerating that people who saw it were really moved by it. A lot of them said it was one of the most important projects they had seen, but a lot of people didn't hear about it, and it only ran for 2 weeks. There were a lot of people who, after the fact, said, oh, I really would have liked to see that, but they didn't hear about it. We got a very tiny paragraph in the Monterey Weekly and nothing anywhere else. We did our best to publicize it, but it's still a challenge to get the word out and to get people to recognize this kind of thing as important. So we'll certainly be doing more with the play, and it was certainly very empowering to do it. And we showed that there's interest in it. I mean, we had sold out houses almost every night. That's the kind of thing. That's the kind of thing we need to keep doing to show other theater companies that this kind of thing is not only valuable as activism, it's also economically viable. And we're going to keep doing it. It's going to grow, and I'm very proud that I helped to make it happen.
Fantastic.
Could I say something to that piece? It's so lovely that you said that. I was one of the organizers with the Latinx LGBT Film Festival that's been held in Salinas the last 2 years. And the last thing you said resonates so much because what we've found is, we did free screenings. At some point we may have to charge. We'd love to keep them free. But there really is an appetite in the community and even within communities of color to really come out and support LGBTQ brothers and sisters and neighbors and family members. That hunger is there, and allies, they want to be there and they show up and they come. And the first year that we did it, we had 400 people show up. We were worried and nervous thinking we weren't going to get 50. And at some point, I was giving people programs and telling them, welcome to the theater, thank you so much for coming. At some point, somebody came out of the theater and said, we're out of seats. And I said, what are you talking about? Just tell people to move to the middle. Like,
Just stack them.
a student volunteer, and I was trying not to be bossy, but I was like, just tell people to move over, I still have a line. And they said to me, no, we're out of seats. And I was thinking, they moved us into the biggest theater. Like this theater holds 400 people. There were people that stood in the theater we worked with. They were really gracious to allow us to accommodate people standing. But we had 400 plus people show up for a Latinx LGBTQ film festival. And to us, what it showed was people will come. People in the community. So when other people tell you, oh, we don't want to sponsor this event, or, and today shows that too, it just shows that people really do want to come out and support you. And so that's great, from an organizing point of view. I think just from a personal point of view, it's incredibly humbling to know that there's a community out there who is showing up and they do want to support us. And so, yeah, I think it's such a great point, whether it's a Latinx film festival or a Pride event or a trans theater experience, it's, we're all feeling that.
Totally.
Plus somebody mentioned the census today and how important it is to start taking us in the census. Because what I think kind of part of what we're hearing is we don't really, it's really hard to get any feedback about what's out there. So we don't know how much support there is or how many available bodies there are to to move things forward. So one of the big challenges, and this I and some others have really begun to work on, is how can we be in better communication, especially as social justice organizers? How can we be in better communication with each other? And one thing that I've often said about Monterey in general is I know LGBT people and queer people. I don't know much about a community.
Sure.
And so I kind of felt like one of the things that I know for me, and I think a lot of others, that what we're most pining for out of this is to have the energy to congeal, to build an actual connected community. So does anyone have anything to say about how we're going to get that going? So who's going to solve that?
I have a giant spreadsheet.
Yes.
Yeah,
Let's talk about the spreadsheet.
Yeah, so at today's event, one of the things that we talked about doing is at the information booth to have a sign-in sheet for folks that were interested in continuing to stay informed about what we're going to be doing next. And so as organizers, folks in the pink know, we do have a meeting in 2 weeks that you guys are required to be at. And at that, we're just going to begin the conversations about how we're going to continue this going, at least. And there's kind of talk about us trying to get a nonprofit together to kind of make this a little bit more legitimate. And so hopefully that kind of goes into this unity thing that we're doing with the community. But I'm not sure if anybody can speak more to.
I just wanted to, I think it's the most valid question. I wanted to take a moment to celebrate the achievement. When I was posting it on Facebook, I said that it's history in the making, because I've been living here for 12 years, and I remember, I want to say it was 2008, and the Pride Parade was there was no parade, but there was an event at the Monterey Fairgrounds. You had to pay to get in, and people really liked it, because people didn't want to be out, and they didn't want their picture to be taken, so they liked it, that it was secluded and nobody can get in unless they pay, which of course was great for 2008, but I think if you look now, 2017, we should celebrate this great achievement, that today was open and everybody was there and people were proud to be there, and it was just, and I think we have created today a precedent that would, for next year, I think people are going to ask, well, when is the Pride Parade in 2018 and 19 and 20? I mean, for people, it would be like, specifically for the teenagers who were there today, they're like, clearly we're going to do it every year now, you know? It's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it becomes, yeah, of course, yeah, it's like Christmas, of course you're going to have it every year. It's like Thanksgiving, yeah. So, but I think that the real challenge, and I think it's so good that we have those community leaders and organizers, is really to create a community. But this community, I was so empowered, inspired by the elected officials, or they can also be called politicians, who were there today. And they were there today, I think they were very sincere. I got to talk to them, amazing. But those people also come because they know that we have a community, that we have power, and we can get them the votes. And some of the people who spoke today, they inspired me so much. So I did vote for them before, and I'm going to vote for them again. We need leaders like this. But that's one idea, that we have a strong community that actually has political power and also economic power. Because if you look at sponsors and you look at corporate America, they look, 1,000 people go and they do that, and so we should support that. And we should support their film festivals, and we should support their community theaters, and we should support their activism. There's power there. And once you create that, then it's impossible to be ignored, because we're going to have a lot of challenges along the way. But, and again, I'm originally from Israel, so what the community in Israel, when they had problem with the Israeli police, they didn't give up on the police force, but they said, no, we're going to educate you. So they went to the chief of the police and they started those education workshop for police officer men and women. And when there were troubles with the police and challenges with the police, you already have those connections with the police that you can work very strongly together, because you're already established. In a way, you have the money in the bank. And I think that's what we're trying to do here with our community here. Today was a huge success, but we're still going to have tomorrow and next week and 2 weeks from now and next year. So I think the question is most valid, and we all need to come up with answers.
And I think we should say, I want to take the opportunity to acknowledge the city of Seaside that hosted the parade. And just say, talking about elected officials, there were some challenges. There were some severe challenges in trying to get this off. Not everyone in our community appreciates us, and folks came out to have us not do this, and some very, very powerful people. And so I think one thing I really want to say, my favorite thing in the world are allies. I'm just going to tell you right now. When anyone bears a cross that is not their own for somebody else, I'm like, that's the most Christ-like thing you can possibly do. Lay down your life, or put your life on the line for somebody else. And so I really think that we need to appreciate and stand by people who are sticking out their necks for us. So there are two of our elected officials in the Seaside, the city in particular, I want to mention by name. Dave Pacheco, I thought was just really, really stood up for us, was very out front doing that. And of course, Kayla, is it Jones? Kayla Jones?
Yeah.
And Kayla Jones. And, I suspect, I'm truth-telling now, I suspect that there is going to be a concerted effort to run them out of office. Mm-hmm. And so, I think it's important, especially now that we're seeing that our community is much bigger than we thought it was. But that we're going to have to gather around those people who have stuck their necks out for us and make sure that we keep them there. And the same sort of thing can be said about, because it was mostly religious opposition that we really had. Mm-hmm. And I loved that our event opened with an interfaith,
Yes.
to bring
Yes.
all this clergy on the stage. I mean, this whole event to me, it felt like it was the answer to, this whole event was the answer to every question or every little bit of opposition that we got from some members, at the city council. People were afraid that, we'd be naked in the streets and, they can only see what we do in San Francisco. And we had an absolutely family-friendly affair. You knew LGBT people that were there, but I couldn't tell allies from LGBT because it was so completely integrated.
Well, and what I would say about that, because we had talked about this in our meetings about the family-friendly aspect of it, and I mean, I am empathetic towards folks that don't come from the community or don't know folks from the community, and so there comes naivety when you don't know something, but it was frustrating for me because I was comparing it to us being black and non-black people referring to us as being thugs or gangsters, and it's just like, you can't kind of do this blanket thing, and we wouldn't accept that, right? So that's not appropriate, and it was a little frustrating for me, but I get it, so I just had to speak my piece.
No, that's important because, and if I can say something, follow up on that, because even though I think that we need an alternative version, and that small towns are the place to do that, at least for me, that is not a condemnation of what we do up in San Francisco, because as far as I'm concerned, that is needed as well. We have to understand that the LGBT movement came out of hippies and the sexual revolution, and people that have been so suppressed in terms of their sexuality, and we couldn't get married, you couldn't have relationships. So I mean, instead of a church, our institution was the bar, right? That's where we meet up. So we have been pushed to the edges of society, and at some point people said, okay, well, this is the place that we're going to occupy. Well, then let's occupy it and let's do it up. So I think that this is something not to reject or pretend is not a part of us.
For sure.
It's just that there needs to be some. We need to occupy every type of space.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like you might have something to say.
Then I might have something to say.
Yeah, baby.
I think what you said very well, but I would just like to add something from a little bit of a different angle, that it's not just that it's important to have a family-friendly LGBT event, but it is an act of activism, because we still haven't come that far. There are still people out there who use the term family-friendly to mean straight. And we have to say, no, that's not what it means. So today we did that.
I was thinking, I was wondering if people might think of the drag that way. And so I was very happy that we said family-friendly and had a drag show.
Yeah.
So we can make a distinction between what we're talking about is we're not going to have outrageous displays of sexuality in this event, but our gender difference in our sexuality is part of it, and we are normalizing that.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. Everybody loved it.
Yeah.
It was celebrated. It was a huge success.
People were like glued to their seat, right,
Yeah.
when they were doing the drag show. It was awesome.
Can people just talk about how they feel about the event now? Was it successful? How did you feel? What did you think?
I know for me, when we first walked into the celebration space, I had marched in the parade, and I was just getting there, and I think I said to everybody in pink shirts and yellow fluorescent shirts, I just kept saying, there are people here. People are here. I just, that's all I could say. And I was like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? But,
Focus.
yeah, but I must have said that out loud at least a dozen times. Because yes, I had that, yesterday when we're trying to figure out, do we have enough of this? Do we have enough of that? How many people are actually coming? And we're throwing out arbitrary numbers. To then be surrounded by so many happy, smiling faces, people seeing each other that you could tell hadn't seen each other in a while, or coworkers who didn't know that they were both coming to an event, or, oh, my neighbor is here, I didn't know you were, I was witnessing all of those interactions. and just taking it in, and it just felt like, oh my goodness, these people all showed up. Yeah.
For me, the moment was, well, first of all, just seeing it happening, in the making, the process of it's really going to happen, and it's huge. I sense that it's going to become a huge success. Everybody wanted to be part of it. All the organizations wanted to co-sponsor it. For me, the moment was when I was sitting on stage, and then there was the interfaith invocation, and then all those clergy came and stood on the stage, and I couldn't see the audience. And to myself, I'm like, there's so many people here, and there's so many clergy that are on the stage celebrating our community. I said that's a big moment for us. And then we had, all our elected officials there with the proclamation. I'm like, it's good. This is where our community needs to be. And it was not the case 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and definitely not 30 years ago. So when you talk to the elders of our community, the founding mothers and fathers, and you see what they had to go through, I really felt that we're standing on their shoulders today. And I was like, it's just a beautiful moment that we need to celebrate.
Tyler, you did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How do you feel?
It's still kind of sinking in. I mean, there's this, and then there's the event tonight, and so there's just a lot going on. I just feel deeply humbled.
You were in the eye of the storm. You're right. He was just the center.
Which was a scary thing, though. I mean,
That's all to you.
I've heard nothing but great things come from this event, and except for one person kind of twisted an ankle and had to go away in an ambulance. But no bones were broken, and
Anything surprise you?
I knew that I was coming to be present, to give love and receive love, and to be in this kind of happy space. And I had a sense that there was going to be a lot of people there. But just to experience it is like a completely different thing. It's kind of hard to put in words. And I'm still kind of like in this moment of like, I don't know. It's amazing. And then to even be part of this panel and to kind of hear these different perspectives and how we can kind of figure out a way of moving forward, it makes me excited. Like, I'm this is awesome that we've been able to do this and everything that comes from this. So I'm just super pumped, super excited, humbled for all of you for participating and being active.
How about you guys and gals?
I think, we're both gals here. I was going to say. You can go ahead. Go on.
Well, surprise. Technically, it wasn't a surprise because I had heard about it in advance, but in general, the most surprising is something that stood out that I had never seen before. I've been going to Pride events for 25 years and all sorts of other activist events as well, all sorts of rallies. This is the first one that ever had a quiet room. And I want to emphasize that I recognize the value of noise. All of us who belong to a population that has been silenced and erased, it's very empowering to get together and make noise. And I would never want people to stop doing that. But also, this society still has not come to grips with some people who are neurodivergent, people who have sensory issues, people who can easily get overwhelmed. I was so glad there was a room I could go and I could sit and chill out and process things and then go back to the noise. I mean, it made it so much better to have that, and I'm really hoping that kind of thing becomes the norm rather than the exception in these sorts of events.
Thanks for that feedback, actually. That was great to hear.
Yeah. I already forgot what the questions were.
How was it for you? And maybe we'll talk about some of the rooms.
I kind of felt similarly to Tyler. I just felt this warmth mustering up. I think at one point I teared up a little bit. I didn't actually cry. I pulled on my boots. I can't talk for some reason. I'm normally way more charismatic. Hey, no apologies here. So, it was just so overwhelming, just this sense of warmth and love. And I felt that before at I felt that at the Women's March in Santa Cruz. I felt that, last year when I went to San Francisco Pride. But to feel it here, locally, not having to travel, a half hour to an hour or 2 hours away to feel that right at home just really hit me.
Actually, I would like to second that. I mean, I've only lived in Monterey County for 6 years now, and I'm a product of a military family. I was born in a military hospital, and so, it was really difficult for me to be able to find a community and kind of understand what that concept is outside of meeting a military family that we just lived with in a different military base, right? So being here, really getting to know the activists in the community, and then going to all these different political events that have been part of the resistance this year, and then I come to this event today and I'm seeing like all these familiar faces, and like they're my friends now, like my family, right? My chosen family. It's incredibly amazing, and it's really hard to describe, right? Because it's just like complete love, and it's amazing.
It was really important for me to be involved with this as a triple minority, really, because all my identities are important, but there's not three of me. I may have three identities, but I don't have three bodies. So I have been doing so much work in the African American community, and so I have been, and I try to bring up LGBT issue. I try to be intersectional wherever I'm at. But I have been longing for my rainbow community, and so it was fantastic to have this, and I didn't think that there wasn't a lot of the African American community that came out. There were some major players that did come out, and I think that there's some reticence. I think a lot of people want to see, well, how did it go? And I think that it went really well, and because some of the major players came out, they can report back. There's nothing to fear. This was fantastic, and so I'm hoping, and I always think that one of the things that I love the most about the rainbow is that we are made up of all these ethnicities. We are made up of all these faiths. And so that gives us an opportunity. So it's not unlike, it seems to me like it's more than, and maybe this is just me making things up, but to me, it seems like more than almost any other community, we have to be intersectional. And that we can't just work within a single community. For us to have a vibrant LGBT community means that I, as an African American, need to be carving space for other LGBT African Americans in the African American community. That is my charge, in a sense. And the same thing when it comes to religion. Like I'm going to say this out loud, so maybe I'll actually do it. I'm going to try to start going to some of our churches that are not particularly welcoming. I have done this before, but I've done it in white communities, and it's harder when prejudice from your own hurts the most.
Sure.
But I've been run out of the black community before, or I let myself be run out of the black community before. And one of the reasons why I named some of the important people in all these communities today is because I realize it's our responsibility to bring that voice, and just as, in the 50s, black people had to go to the lunch counters where they were not wanted. It wasn't just about, making things better in our communities. We actually show up. We had to kind of force integration. And we can't leave. It's like, as a spiritual person, I want to go to a spiritual place that soothes my soul. But I also have a responsibility. I feel that there are these places, like once I'm strong enough, that I need to go some other places and take the heat, and do what I can to melt that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm not sure how everybody feels, but I think maybe if we can take some. If there are any questions from the audience.
Oh, yeah.
Or
a poem! How about a poem?
Or a poem!
We could have a poem! I think it's a poem time. And that will give you a chance to think of your questions. Thank you.
Yeah.
and stop talking anymore.
That was beautiful.
No, yeah, totally.
That was absolutely
Yes, we want to see you. I want to see you. They want to see you.
Stop it.
Okay.
So we'll call this Stargazer.
Wait, tell us what your name is.
My name is Jordan, with an E. Call me Dreamer, whatever. Or the Camera 5 guy, I don't know. So, I don't know, with this community, I respect it. You know, I family members, equality. I might be straight, but I see gray, neutral. So we'll call this one Stargazer. The star lasts as time can grasp windowless walls upon stickless surfaces. Our souls feel worthless, creating a tomb of power-hungry, imaginatory fiction, which we push society to change. It's like my anxiety. Like being equal to the people who bend genders, break borders, become memory hoarders, who loathes in popularity, holsters their pistols and spindles as objects are only as attractive as the uses that are small. Dials turn one notch, currents and energize a community which we cut 4 letters, being blessed with unity. Careful to tread lightly on a slightly tilted battlefield of sexually blind heathens who seethe, bellowing hate, and say, gay is just an excuse. So straight is the way you go until you curve. Hit roads. Unknown to a few, courage to be equal creates divine peace, live, love, cherish in life. For your sexuality is not a disease. And every moment you strive to success, through broken hearts, we dream. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. That was beautiful.
Anybody got any questions? Where's the microphone?
Questions, comments?
Oh, there's
Suggest-
the microphone.
Oh, it's back.
We need to be interactive now. Come on.
Anyone?
Okay, well then you can ask questions up here.
If you could just go to the mic, or maybe if we can pass the mic around at the very least.
No good.
I don't have a question.
It's a,
I don't have a question, but I would like to say that I am the current chair of membership for the Monterey County branch of the NACP. And I've been living in Monterey County for over 50 years now and have seen many changes in the, and I'm gonna put it this way, in the quote, gay community. I want to applaud all 6 of you for what transpired today. It was one of the best assemblage that I've seen and been part of. And when I got the invitation from Stephen, I thought, do we as an organization have a table there? And when Stephen, I don't know if you called me or not. I think you did call. I said, yes, I'll be there. And I'm glad I was there representing self as well as organization. And hope that it will get stronger as the years come and go.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I do want to point out that the NAACP was one of, if not the first, civil rights organization that came out in support of marriage equality. There's often been this thing where we have and actually it was a Republican tactic, where we have pitted African Americans versus LGBT. But I look at the Obama administration, and we have never gotten so far, the LGBT community, as we did under Obama. Who, you know, and who mentioned Stonewall along with the March on Washington in one of his inaugurations. So it's fantastic. And also, Mel Mason pointed out, this is going back to the 70s, that the Black Panthers were in support of gay liberation, that Huey said that out loud back in the 1970s. So, you know, this characterization that this or that ethnic community stands opposed, just like this or that faith stands opposed, is not really true.
You mentioned.
Oh, we want to maybe get a mic. Anyway, while we're getting the mic, I just wanted to say thank you for your comments. I really appreciate you sharing that with us. I mean, that means a lot.
You mentioned that there's going to be a meeting in a couple weeks. Can you tell us more about that? And is it open to the public? Can people join the organization?
Yeah, that's a good question that I don't know how to answer. I mean, part of it is we're going to be doing a debrief, and I mean, I'm definitely open to kind of, you know, allowing the public to enter, but I am kind of also hesitant of it getting too big where we can't stay focused on kind of some of the objectives that we have, because part of it is a debrief of today's events, and then it's kind of setting up a framework of how we're going to move forward. So that's a good question, but definitely if you weren't able to provide your contact information prior at the event, to definitely give it to us today, and we can make sure to keep you in the loop about anything that we decide to do moving forward.
And also, if I can add, I talked to Kyla Jones today, the council member from Seaside, and she told me, and of course she'll have all the information, that because the city of Seaside was so kind to give us over $5,000, some council members want to know what happened with this money and if it was worth it. So she encouraged me and all of us to come. I think it's less than 2 weeks. There's going to be another city council meeting, and share with the council members and the mayor as participants, as members of the community, what was the effect of the Pride Parade that we had today on us. She said it's very, very important. So next year when we go and we ask for funding, and perhaps next year they're going to give us more, they'll be like, yeah, we know where this money is going, and we know what the impact that we have on the empowerment of the community.
Yeah, so we encourage folks to come to the Seaside City Council meeting. I think it's on June 29th. It's the Thursday in 2 weeks from now, and just kind of speak to this and speak power to truth.
Okay. Any other last comments or?
I had a comment, really. I was reflecting on some of the things that you said, Steph, and about, well, you said many important things, but one of them, I think, maybe to look at like Santa Cruz and San Francisco and the Pride Parades there, and I think those communities are amazing, they are a blessing, there's so many things that we can learn from them. But for me personally, having lived in San Francisco and having a very minor role in putting together the parade, participating in it, and also in Santa Cruz, I felt about our community here, it was really history in the making, because it was the first time. Every little thing that we did had a great impact. I really felt like a pioneer. I really felt like being part of something really big. Also, friends were telling me, why are you writing like this on Facebook? I'm like, because that's what I feel. Like, this is really important. And having known Tyler, and I was like, wow, this guy kind of runs with this idea, and everybody is trying to help, and it's just so beautiful. And if you perhaps look at it at a higher level, than perhaps spiritual, religious, but sometimes when I go to high schools and I talk to the students about happiness, they're like, you know, high school kids, so they're like, in one word, give me a definition of one word for the word happiness. Yeah, so I tell them, okay, fine, you want one word? Fine. One word definition for happiness is meaning. And then I tell them Viktor Frankl, who wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning, said that meaning in one's life is always taking care for a greater cause, greater than oneself. If you just say, I live my life for my own ego, for money, for power, for fame, for influence, it actually guarantees very mediocre life. You're going to get it probably, but very mediocre life. If you want to have a happy life, a meaningful life, you need to have meaning, and meaning is really taking care of a greater cause. And I felt with what happened today, it was a greater cause. It was more than one person. It was probably greater than all of us together, but we were part of it.
That was beautiful. Hey, let's have everyone, in no particular order, just say your last thoughts or last things that you want to say, or anything that you want to promote or anything like that. So we kind of feel complete.
Oh, we're starting with me. Okay. Last thoughts. Like, I'm one of those people that will just go on forever and never stop. So I kind of have to think about this one for a minute. I don't know. When I saw all the people in there, I thought, we have to do this again. Because we were talking about doing it, and maybe doing it, and hopefully doing it. But seeing everyone there, and everyone reacting so positively, I thought, okay, we have to do this again. We just have to. You know, no matter what, we have to do this again. Those are my final thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
I think for me, I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful to be a part of this community. Okay, let's hear it. You know, to find community can sometimes feel hard. To see your community and the reflection of your community back to you, can be so overwhelming. But it makes me grateful to live here. It makes me grateful to be a part of this. It makes me grateful to be a part of this community. I'm grateful that I'm raising my son here. I'm grateful that we get to live our life here. I mean, so much of this planning, which is amazing for our community, you know, I'm feeling it just so personally for me. Being able to just feel more settled and content. Like, oh, we don't need to look to another community. We don't need to look outside of here. We can have it here. And so not only grateful, but just settling, like in a good way, you know, feeling sort of that settled, contented place almost. And it's amazing to think that an event, you know, with so much energy and passion, for me, what I'm feeling is just this like, this is so good. It's so good to just bask in this, you know, this feeling. And I think it also comes from feeling like there's outlets for all of us to be a part of this community. When you were talking about the quiet room and, you know, kind of knowing as an organizer where the idea behind that came from, having a kids room, having an art room, for all of us to be able to tap into our creativity and give what's meaningful to us, tying, you know, the meaning behind all of the things we did. I'm so grateful for that, because not many organizing committees would be so open, like, oh yeah, sure, we'll have a librarian read books. Oh sure, we'll have a quiet room. Oh yeah, let's throw in some art. But to do it with such meaning and such conviction, it's just, it feels complete. It feels good. I'm just really grateful and thankful for all of you.
Well, and if I could just kind of piggyback off that kind of was where my thoughts were. You know, what I'll say is, I think one of the biggest problems that we have in our mass media is how it makes us focus on the problems of other people rather than ourselves. And so I've really taken this opportunity in the last few years going to CSUMB, kind of learning these concepts and really just trying to bring it back in and like, okay, what did you do to contribute to this? Even though if I felt like somebody else kind of did a wrong to me, you know, what did you do? How could you improve yourself? And if we all can, you know, focus on ourselves a little bit better within society, we would make this space so much better, because nobody else can control what we do, but we can. And so if we're the master of that, just think about where society can go. And so, kind of where I see my strengths and in what led to, I think, all of this, is I think I'm really good at bringing people together and getting things going, right?
Yeah.
And so I can grow in that, and I will continue to focus on that as an individual. But it's amazing to sit here and hear experts talk about, happiness and meaning. I mean, it's beautiful to kind of see these different aspects and people really shining in what it is that their strengths are. And so I'm just so thankful for this experience. I'm so humbled to be sitting with all of you and being part of this.
I would like to add to what other people have said before about the importance of allies. And for me, because of the various identities I have certain privileges. I'm white, I'm college educated, but there are other ways in which I can do things which not everyone can do. And there are also ways in which I'm oppressed and I need help from other people. And it gets talked about so much, and in some cases all that's really happening is it's getting talked about. We've probably all known people who brag about what a great ally they are, but when push comes to shove, they don't really do anything. Well, I'm not saying this because I want to be given a pat on the head and told how great an ally I am. I'm saying it just because it's so important that real allies really step up. And, I think about trans people in our society, especially trans women of color who continue to be murdered at an appalling rate. And they're vulnerable because they're alone. They're isolated. Isolation makes us vulnerable. And the more that people come together, the safer we are and the stronger we are and the healthier our communities are. And we all know this. I'm just saying it again because I'm going to keep saying it until the day that hopefully we won't have to say it anymore. And that's what I'm saying.
Amen.
I have two final thoughts. One is, I was also part of organizing the Women's March. And I want to say that, around the world, name me a place that oppresses women, and that's the same place that oppresses LGBT folks. So these two, they go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. It's a very, 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 very similar oppression, and our sense of gender is so. It's the thing that we are taught first. So in a sense, it's like the core thing, and yet everything is built on heterosexual relationship, and yet still there's a partner in the most privileged relationship who is oppressed. So it's like the most basic. So it's like the first step. So it's just really to me, it's like you don't get anywhere until you've solved and dealt with the oppression of women. That to me is the alpha. That's the beginning. And I think, and this is just me, and I think the last people to come along, like the last oppression you're going to get to is going to be LGBT. So, and yet they're very related. But it's like you start with women, and you haven't done it until you've got to us. So that concept I wanted to get out, and then just two people. There's two historic people that I want to mention that I'd like people, if you don't know who they are, to go look up. One is Bayard Rustin, who is perhaps the greatest organizer of the 20th century, organized the March on Washington, African American, gay in the 30s, for heaven's sake. And also Harry Hay. Harry Hay started the Mattachine Society, and then the Radical Fairies. The Mattachine Society was the first homophile open gay organization in the country in the 1950s. And the thing that's so special about the Radical Fairies and what transformed my life is this one little concept, and it really comes from Native American cultures, because he is a historian and was looking for positive images. And it's the idea that for LGBT people, or for some of us, I can't speak for all of us, but for many of us, and certainly the way he thinks of it, our sexuality is an integral part of our spirituality. And because there are so many people who set us up as being the antithesis of spirit, like that was like the most healing thing. So I want to encourage people to, if you don't know them, look at Bayard Rustin and look up Harry Hay.
Quazar.
And have a gay day. Thank you.